Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today again. Let me give you a little bit of an agenda, my plan for today. I thought that I would run through kind of quickly to the presentation that I had on stage yesterday. I understand that maybe for some of you it's going to be slightly boring if you were at the event yesterday, but I understand that there might be quite a few people that have not attended physically the event. So I just want to give a bit of a run through. After I do that, the plan is that we dive a little bit deeper into some of the concepts that I have presented, but I will also introduce a few more concepts a bit more related to strategy and strategy work, particularly in this context. So let us get started. The space shuttle, a beautiful piece of engineering, absolutely brilliant for us from that were around in the 80s, coolest thing ever. But it's really interesting to think that the design of the space shuttle was actually very influenced by this. Well, the idea is that in ancient Rome, you kind of had two horses, and where they're the widest is, well, their rear ends, and that became the standard for the Roman carriage, right? So the Roman carriage then you had the roads that were built according to that, and because you had the roads, then the railway system became also that axis, and the railway system in Europe also became in the US. Long story short, the space shuttle was designed, developed in Utah, so they had to find a way to bring it all the way to Florida, where it was launched, and therefore they had to use the rail system. So this is just a bit of a funny story to give you the concept of path dependency. It's this idea that in organizations you have something that is so ingrained on the way how we do things that it's very hard for the organization to even be aware that we just do this way because we have always done it this way, right? And I think that there's something really there when it comes to the relation of AI and AI implementation and being at organizations, because we have this idea that AI is hard to implement, it's hard to scale, and it's all about the technology. For example, this is a really interesting research coming from MIT, from the team of Stephanie Werner, with whom we collaborate at Boards Impact Forum. Amazing lady, absolutely a delight. And what they have looked into, and they have done this already since 2022, right? So they have this survey, and they're trying to map out the different maturity stages at organizations, all the way from still experimenting, still preparing, to really being future ready. And what we see is those two initial phases of implementation in an organization. If you look at growth, if you look at profit, they're negative. So AI is cool, it's amazing, but if we are not able to really deploy it in a good way, then it's just a cost. And what is that good way of deploying? How can we deploy AI? Well, it's both scaling the platform, but also changing work. It's finding new ways of working with AI. And once you do that, then growth starts being positive, then profit starts being positive. It's the foundation from being future ready, where you continuously work with innovation, you create new revenue streams, and so on. So therefore, at that moment, you have, lift off. That's where it's the dream. It's where we all want to go. But it's this, I think that it's good to just really go in depth to this moment between stage 2 and stage 3, where we're still building the pilots, we're still kind of developing the capabilities, all the way to this actually impacts how we work, our ways of working in the organization. And I absolutely love this quote from Laurie Anderson. Uh, if you think technology will solve all your problems, well, then you don't understand technology and you don't understand your problems. And it's a bit of an interesting way to put it, but it goes to the core of this idea that tech per se does not solve all the challenges we're facing. The challenges we're facing are indeed organizational challenges. And what are those organizational challenges? As an example, right? Um, who owns the data? What are the access rights? Who's allowed to make decisions with the AI? Where does this decision authority sit? Um, the incentives for the AI transformation. How are we managing risk at scale? I mean, all these are governance issues. All these are governance issues. What is governance? Governance is the system in a business, in an organization that guides the decisions, that supervises the risk, and that really aligns both management with the board, the leadership around the strategic direction and the strategic ambition of the organization. So it's this very structural alignment and making things happen when when they should really. And me and my co-authors, Liselott Engstam, Robin Teigland, and also collaboration from Stanislav Chesknia from INSEAD. These were the kind of issues that we were looking for this for the research that then kind of set the foundation, the stone for this book that was published now in November. So this research project, just to give you a little bit more context, a little bit more meat on the bone, we started this research project in 2018 already, and we published the first book in 2020. And it's really interesting because at the time, it felt like AI was such a hype. Indeed, it's only now comparing it. Okay, it was not a hype. But already then we saw, okay, there's something here about the need to govern this technology. So we were collaborating with Combient, that is a wonderful ecosystem from some of the biggest businesses in the Nordics, both in Sweden and in Finland, connected to the Wallenberg family, and very forward looking from them also from in 2018 to already start looking into these issues, and then recently, we got the support then from Internet Stiftelse, that's the Swedish Internet Foundation, in order to update the research and bring this book forward. Interestingly enough, some of the foundational aspects from the first book, from that kind of first wave of research, were still maintained now. More specifically, the framework. So this framework that we are calling the boards for AI strategic leadership. So this is very much focused on governance from a board perspective. I can tell you a few of the things that were not there from the first version. The roof, the leading the strategic ambition, was not there, and that AI sustainability impact was not there. But pretty much everything else was give or take. And I'll give you three main takeaways, three main aspects for you to consider. I did not. These are the things that I did not mention on my talk on stage yesterday. Key aspect has to do with setting the foundation, the board setting the foundation themselves, and I think this is valid for boards, for leadership. So there's something about having the competence, having the structure, the subject command to work with AI. I'm not saying that all leaders need to be AI engineers, machine learning engineers. Absolutely not. But there is something about having an informed discussion, being able to make the right questions, being able to have informed decisions. So that's kind of the first takeaway. The second takeaway, it's very much around the balance that is needed between guidance and supervision. What do I mean by guidance and supervision? One has to do with the opportunities, right? So it's everything that has to do with the development of AI within the organization. And the other one has to do with the supervision of the implementation of those capabilities. So all the way from a bit more connected to innovation to a bit more connected to compliance and managing risk. And finally, very much around leading the strategic ambition. Leaders, boards, governance needs to be connected with this ambition of where we want to go. How is this going to impact our talent, our workforce, the transformation of the organization? How is this going to impact ourselves? How is this journey going to impact ourselves? And one of the reasons I think it's for me personally, I think it's important to really highlight the AI sustainability impact that you see there kind of within the strategic ambition. Either we want it or not, even if we even if we try not to believe in climate change and we try to deny it, it's a reality. It's happening. And I think that in this Portuguese context, looking into the unfortunate, somewhat recent floods that we had in Alcácer do Sal, or even the wildfires last summer. And there's really something about we need to transform. Businesses need to have this dual transformation, right? It's both the green transformation and the digital transformation, the AI transformation. So it makes absolute sense to pair them and to work with them together. That's also one of the aspects that I'm going to address on my second workshop that will take the place this afternoon. So going a bit more in depth into what does this specifically mean for boards? What are you going to say to the boards in your organization? There's three principles. One of them has to do with the accountability. There has to be someone that is ultimate responsible for ethical and effective use of AI. And there's that accountability that needs to live somewhere in the organization. It's traditionally the board or the leadership team, according to the organizational structure. There is that aspect of subject command to have enough competence to assess risk and opportunity. And also very much the integration. How are we going to proactively embed AI into the different structures? Like I was saying before, in order for us to scale, to create value over the implementation of AI, we need to be able to do that journey from integrating AI into the organization. So let's take a second to go a bit more in depth then to each one of these different elements here. Again, this is something that I didn't really address on my talk yesterday, and I wanted to give you a little bit of meat on the bone. So let's look into guidance. Data, right? What's the data strategy? What's the data governance? How can we see data as an asset and have an organization that allow us to have a proper stewardship of that asset? Is this around having federated data, for example? Is this about integrating data with the business strategy? But how can we, and a very important aspect that absolutely has become critical in the latest months, I would say, particularly from the end of the year and Davos, January, until now, is of course also data sovereignty. So it's very much around this is a key asset. Let's start treating it like one. AI-driven innovation. how can we make sure that we have proper innovation management when it comes to the development of AI? Innovation management is a very dear, close to my heart subject. That's kind of my core love. So I feel that many organizations still look at innovation as serendipitous events, and don't really have or haven't really developed the capabilities to create a process, a system, a portfolio management, etc., to have the capabilities to work with innovation, let alone AI, right? So again, great opportunity. We need to do this. We need to do this transformation. Then might as well do it right from the beginning. For example, ISO 56000 for innovation management. It's there. What you need to do. Perfect. And there's other frameworks. Let's throw in sustainability to the pot while we're at it. I mean, since we are redesigning the organization, might as well do it right. And then finally, business ecosystem value creation. Very much how we can ensure the standards, collaboration, because now it's not governing just within the borders of the organization, but it's governing within the ecosystem. So pretty much how we do that. And then the example that I also brought up to stage yesterday, and I can go quickly through it, it's Philips. Philips has done an absolutely amazing transformation journey from, all the way from being a light bulb company to being the company that, had the DVDs that we played, movies or whatever when we were kids, to being world leading when it comes to health imaging. 750 million patients per year go through their machines. So you can imagine the absolutely fabulous amount of data that I have been working in really smart ways with AI to optimize the systems, to make them faster, to create value, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, Philips have already since 2020 published their AI principles. So very much thinking of AI for a long time already. And for example, the rules of procedure for the board specifically say requires digital capability when it comes to the board. Let's dive a little bit into the supervising of the governance capabilities. So when it comes to supervision or this aspect of risk, I think that quite often we end up just falling in a bucket. Okay, let's just do the regulation. Let's just do cybersecurity, to have a bit of a narrow vision of what is the supervision of AI. So I think it's really interesting to think at least around these these three buckets. Ethics, so very much related to the bias of AI, how to work with data, privacy, transparency, etc., and very much coupled then to the regulation. One of the points that I've made also yesterday is that AI regulation has been thin, has been missing, but I think it's really coming. It's really going to change, if not on all jurisdictions, in very important ones. So it is important that we already, since we're again establishing this, that we try to do it right from the beginning. Cybersecurity and cyber resilience. As someone famously said, there's two types of companies: the ones who already have been hacked and the ones that do not know that they have been hacked. but basically, it's 100%. So it's very much around how we work around and create the governance around cyber resilience. And finally, making the point that I was also relating to the point that I was making before, very much connected to the business ecosystem compliance. What does that mean? Well, if we start working in ecosystems, working more with partners, we need to govern both the good things and the bad things. then we need to govern both when things go wrong. But what happens if we have a breach that exactly came through the entry point of a partner, for example? What's the governance around that? On that point, a very, very interesting example is Maersk. Maersk is interesting. They are probably the world's biggest goods mover, and that of course creates an ecosystem that has many, many, many entry points, that has many, many points of it's a large surface, right, of entry points for cyber security, cyber threats. So it's very much around governing that system, all the ports, all the partners, etc. They have been doing really interesting things with digital twins, but they have also been creative, in my opinion, when it comes to, okay, let's look into this compliance aspect also as an opportunity to generate business. The example that I have here has to do, for example, with trade compliance data, everything that has been happening when it comes to tariffs in the world, and of course they are a huge player when it comes to the world trade. So then how to integrate this data and make a compliance solution that really managed tariffs AI-based. Robert Ugla, the chair of the board, has also been very, very outspoken about the need to look into tech and governance. And then finally, the roof. This roof, it's really about the strategy that we're going to continue talking here today. It's about the leadership. I've mentioned quite a lot about leadership already. The talent, the workforce. We haven't really addressed talent and workforce yet, although I think it has been somewhat addressed by the previous speaker. The need for training, the need to develop competences, etc. So very much how the culture in the organization needs to change. And of course, transformation. How are we going to do this from going from A to B, also based on sustainability, like I said. The sustainability aspect, I'm going to go a bit deeper in the session this afternoon, so I recommend you to go and check. But just to say that there's a lot of aspects when it comes to sustainability and AI that go beyond the we just don't have money for it. We just don't have money for sustainability right now because we're putting everything on AI. And I think it's important that we understand that these are two major disruptive forces for across industries, across sectors. And it's important to see them as two sides of the same coin. I really am absolutely convinced that the businesses that are able to integrate sustainability and this mindset when it comes to the digital transformation, so again, this digital and green transformation, will be particularly well positioned in the future to deal with the different challenges. Now, I would like us to go to Mentimeter. So for those of you who haven't used Mentimeter, you can do two things. Either you just open the browser on your phone, your computer, etc., go to menti.com and then place this code, or use your phone, open the camera, and just scan here the QR code so that we can have a little moment of interaction. And let me just share the screen so that we can go here to Mentimeter. And the first question that I would like us to look at is which part of your governance house feels weaker? Looking here into this overview that I've just presented, the overview of both the operational capabilities kind of connected to the value creation, to the governance capability related to supervision, or the strategic ambition, this transformation where we want to go, and sustainability. Which one is the weakest? And I'm going to give you a few seconds to answer. Strategic pause, drink water. Kind of interesting to see the different variations, how it keeps changing. I'm going to give you a few more seconds, trying to get all the input in. A few more seconds. And then if you allow me to very quickly comment, I think it's very interesting that it's so balanced. It's really balanced. It's really different. Yeah, it's it feels like it's almost just there's this framework, these different elements, different organizations have different challenges, but it does feel like there's somewhat a bit of a missing piece of the puzzle for everyone. Everyone has a bit of a, and I think that this is also interesting, right? It's interesting that we understand that we're not alone. That it's not, oh my God, it's my company that is doing this really, really badly. It's us that are failing on this. It's interesting to see that there are challenges across the board. And now I'm going to change the slides and just showing the next slide, which is if it would be possible for us to answer, and this is a bit of an open question, which area of this house I am personally, not my organization, but personally, me, myself, a bit of a personal reflection, least confident, and what is holding me back. And then if you can start answering. I'm actually not sure because I don't see I'm actually testing this myself. I don't see the answers. Now it's coming. Super. And no one is going to know who said what, right? It's anonymous. So feel free to share your soul with us. I'm going to give you a few more seconds to answer. So some lack of commitment, lack of resources, financial maintenance, human capital to hire, lack of talent, very important. Lack of the knowledge of what AI can bring. So a bit mapping those opportunities, right? Challenges when it comes to the speed of change. Things are going so fast. Uncertainty in general. Data strategy and governance, a very important one. Control used in the wrong way, that's a huge challenge, right? Because then we're limited. We can't really explore. Another one on data strategy and governance, exciting. So sharing some of the same problems. Too many initiatives, lack of focus, very, very interesting. Very new to this topic, less knowledge. That's great because that we can work with, right? That we can. Lack of knowledge and the strategy aspect. Hopefully, we're going to bring a few, put that a bit in the spotlight today. a bit kind of lack of strategy, need to do it alone. Another one, a bit lack of knowledge and commitment. Um, yeah, the lack of the amount of possibilities. Yeah, it's hard when there's so much that one could do. It's hard to know where to start, right? It's many different things. Lack of knowledge, staff, talent. Really interesting. Really interesting. Um, let me continue with the presentation now. And let's go back to PowerPoint. So now that we've done a little bit this kind of a bit assessment of what we are missing as an organization and what we are missing a bit as individuals from my personal perspective, let me try to give you a few pieces of the puzzle. I don't think I can give you exactly everything you need to know when it comes to AI strategy in 45 minutes, but I can give you a bit of an overview. So first, the need for dynamic capabilities. What are dynamic capabilities? Dynamic capabilities are these capabilities that really allow us to act quickly. For example, innovation, a dynamic capability. This is research that we published in April 2024, I believe, and it was looking to dynamic capabilities for corporate boards. And it's very much about sensing, pivoting, and aligning. What do these terms mean? Sensing is when the board, and again, it's valid for boards, and I believe it's valid for leadership. The insights on the environment, the context, what's happening in the world around us. Do not underestimate the power of just understanding what's happening, because that's very important to where we want to go. I'm going to come back to that point. Pivoting, it's around okay, let's act. Let's do something around this. What are the steps that we need to take? We make the decision and we need to act on it. The acting on it, it's the aligning. Then we need to put money where our mouths are, right? So we need to put resources. It's interesting, quite a few comments previously on the Mentimeter were about the lack of resources, the lack of talent, etc. And of course, we don't have all the money in the world. It's not unlimited, but then it's very important to prioritize. Then it's very important to see, okay, this is what we want to do, and then go for it, to aligning. Making too many different things, just pivoting, then you don't create the value. And let me take a few minutes to deep dive on foresight, sensing, the capability of sensing. Listen, it's very stressful. We need to make AI happen, and everything is happening at the same time. Where are we going to look at? And this is where I think sensing and foresight comes in as a very useful way of thinking. So it's very much around thinking around the future. So this is the Futures Cone. The Futures Cone is a framework that is very much around, let's imagine that this is a dark room, and you have a light bulb, but with that light bulb, you're kind of pointing into something. So you have that central piece where you have more light, and then it becomes darker and darker. This is very much an analogy to think about the future, right? So we're here. There's some things that we know are going to happen. So these things are very, very, very probable. This is very likely, and then it's becoming increasingly darker from going to, okay, it's plausible, it's possible, or it's really preposterous. It's really kind of out there. And what we see with the context that we live in is that this central piece of this cone, it's becoming smaller, right? So there's less and less things that we know are probable, are likely going to happen. And that's why it's important that we start exploring those adjacent areas to try to understand what could be out there. It's not possible for businesses to just, okay, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, this is where I am, and there's these possible paths in the future. And this is very relevant towards leadership, key element of strategy. I think it's still somewhat rare that we start the strategy process with foresight, with this sensing capability. It's key. I just wanted to share this slide just to give you the mental note to look into scenario thinking as a framework. I'm not going to go into it again. That's a completely different talk, but I just wanted to leave the note: work with scenarios. Work with scenarios, work with scenarios, work with scenarios. And one of the projects that I'm working now is actually to create a little kind of mini training that's going to be free, widely available on future thinking for boards. It's really important. It's really a key element, and I just really don't think we talk enough about it. And I just wanted to say, okay, what's the difference between this thinking of the future, this sensing and forecasting? And I think it's really a sweet spot. It's a sweet spot that we are not talking about science fiction. We're not talking about forecasting for the next quarter. It's that middle there. So it's still very much around having higher uncertainty than a specific forecast, but not high enough that we are just making things up. Again, forecasting has decreased, has becoming more and more kind of towards there the beginning of that graph, and scenario thinking has become even increasingly relevant in the last years. I wanted to also share this framework that I think is absolutely brilliant when it comes to strategy. So this has been published on the Harvard Business Review, and it's just another framework to understand different pieces of the puzzle when it comes to both the technology breadth and the value chain control. That's another way that you can think about the implementation of an AI strategy in organization. So all the way from working with platform leadership, where you have a broad value chain control, or no, this is very narrow what we are doing with our value chain. Again, looking into that ecosystem cooperation and low technological breadth. So, okay, it's very sharpened the edge that we want to bring. So this is a framework that I think just helps you to make that strategic placement when it comes to differentiation. And then, of course, the boards for AI Matrix. I have been working with the Matrix for quite a few years. Of course, I want us to try it here today. So just to give you a little bit of a bit more understanding how I think that makes absolute sense to use the Matrix in a discussion setting. You sit your board, you sit your leadership team, that the team that is involved around creating the strategy for the organization, and you sit there together. Is it really important that you get this absolutely right and that you are mapping? Yeah, we are in planned piloting when it comes to supervising, but we are advanced when it comes to the guiding. Or I think that the exact placement of that little circle there, it's almost irrelevant, almost, but the discussions that you're going to have around deciding that placement are really important. Another version of doing this, you can do this as a group where you all sit together and decide together. Another version is that you do it individually. And once you've mapped it, then you can have the discussion. Oh, you think that we are there? Oh, but I thought that we were. So it's very much around the discussion again of where you are. So in the book, what we have is we have this table where you have, okay, for none. These are the guiding questions within guiding AI, data strategy and governance. Within guiding AI and AI-driven ecosystem, Okay, guiding in operation. These are the data strategy questions. These are, so there's this big table with questions that are just to inform the discussion so you can understand exactly where you are, where you want to go. Let me, being a bit mindful of the time, I would like us to try this out. I would like us to try out where we are in the matrix. Again, there's no wrong answers, there's no right and wrong, just a little bit of having a feeling for how we feel about this. And I'm going to go back here to Mentimeter, and I'm going to put into the next slide. So again, guiding operational capability, we're talking about data, we're talking about innovation and ecosystem value creation. Sustainability, supervising the AI, we're talking about ethics, data transparency, regulation. We're talking about cybersecurity, and we're talking about that governance, supervision of the ecosystem. And then finally, leading the strategic ambition. We're talking about the sustainability, the leadership, the workforce transformation, very much like I was saying before. Where's our ambition of where we want to go with this transformation? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to answer. And I think it's absolutely fine to, we're not showing this to anyone, right? It's kind of for us. So we don't need to feel like we have to perform to save a very high number if that's not how we feel. But I think it's just interesting, again, to have a bit of a feeling of where we are. So quite a big spread, quite a big spread. So how this works with Mentimeter is that just the circle is kind of the average, but then with that wave, you see the spread of the answers. So there's a quite big spread. Quite a few that feel that they're very developed and tech savvy, but quite a few that don't really feel like they are, and that's absolutely fine. Just giving you a few more seconds. Giving a few more seconds for people to answer. I think we're being shy this time. Very much in the middle, very much kind of there on the, we're trying to do this, we're not really sure we have succeeded, but it's not like we're completely oblivious that this is something that we need to do, that this is an important aspect that we need to work on. So very much middle term. I don't see the difference between these answers and the kind of answers I've had in other contexts. I can tell you that. But I think that this is pretty much how we are all feeling right now when it comes to AI implementation. Really. Where do you think we'll be in the next 3 years? And really try to think about the next 3 years, not 5, not tomorrow. Try to imagine it's 2026. So in 2029, it's not 2030 yet, but almost. So where are we in 3 years? Let's see if we have a bit more of a positive perspective on this or not. Very good. A bit more positive, a bit more positive take of where we want to be in the future. So I think I need to wrap up. I'm just going very quickly back here into my slides. And I'm going to share here the last slide. This was also the one that I had yesterday for the talk. These kind of three takeaways. Understand where AI is going, or it's not the same takeaways I had yesterday from the talk. Sorry, it's a bit more in depth, but very much aligned. Understand where AI is going. So it's very important when there's so much uncertainty, so much noise. Let's take a step back and do this exercise of sensing, foresight, mapping where our clients, where they're going, our suppliers, the industry, etc. And then develop those dynamic capabilities necessary to get there. What are those dynamic capabilities at the board, at the leadership team, and see governance as a dynamic capability also. It's important to govern this technology. Let's see governance not from the compliance perspective, but from a value creation perspective also. And create alignment where you are and where you want to go. Use the matrix. I think it's absolutely great. Well, maybe I sound a bit biased saying this. A great strategy tool. Make sure that you use it and have that discussion. It's not the tool in itself, is the magic that happens when you take the time to go through this and have this discussion with your peers. The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. Law, rules, governance to create order is an important thing. It's something that we want to strive for. And again, we cannot do things like we've done in the past. Think of past dependency. We cannot have yesterday's logic. Let's look into the future. And then just then we can be very successful and reach for the stars. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Here's my email. Let me hear your thoughts, and good luck. You've got this. You can do this. Thank you so much.